Welcome to the Growth Mindset podcast. As the world trundles on, there seems to be ever more distractions and increasingly pointless jobs that don't give our lives meaning. Our content divides us more than ever, and we have this nagging sense that everything is mundane, matched by the equally mind-boggling sense that everything is hugely important and the universe may implode at any point. These are a few of the things taking up our headspace lately, and many people can slip into the rut of a job they don't like and habits that don't help them. To talk about ways of breaking out of our problems and living a life with more intention and excitement, I've invited none other than GeoWizard on the show. And GeoWizard is also known as Tom Davies, who is my cousin, but he has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, following his adventures and other fun things that he gets up to. He was the first person to walk across Wales in a straight line, and has since raised money for charity by being the first person to dribble a football across Britain, which is a bit dumb, but he raised a lot of money for mental health and is very concerned about these things because he really struggled with mental health himself, hence why he is on the show to talk about improving your mental health. Been amazing to watch his personal journey from being just a kid to someone with millions of followers, and the idea for his straight line missions actually came from seeing telephone masts off in the distance and trying to reach them in a straight line with his stepbrother. And that became a hugely successful YouTube premise, it turns out. And we start the conversation where I ask him if he's going to set a similar task to his own kids. And the conversation about mental health and just improving your life rolls on from there. So it's a great episode and I hope you enjoy it.
Obviously, it's going to be a juggle between not wanting them to die unnecessarily. But I've heard stories, I think it was Richard Branson, I think, if I'm not mistaken. This might be totally wrong because I'm not a fact checker. But I've heard that his parents just dumped him in the middle of Wales. I don't know how old he was. I guess that's quite an important factor. I think he was like 11 and said, find your way home. And that's why he became so entrepreneurial, allegedly. And I think there's something in that. I'm going to sound like a granddad now, but I think there's a lot of spoilt kids who are lacking in that kind of fire in their belly that I think comes from having to figure things out for themselves when they're younger, and like patience, things like that.
Yeah, that's very much sort of, we've got used to just having things that you want rather than having to work for it as such. And also kind of like the adventurous side of spending time in uncertainty and learning that often is what gives you the best results, and doing things that you're not sure how it's going to work out and going through sort of scary moments actually get to like a much bigger enjoyment factor than just going directly for like, oh, I want this right now.
Definitely. I mean, it's the journey, isn't it? It's the reward factor. I've got this idea in my head that I'm going to get my kids, if and when I have them, to do these little challenges and try and make them entrepreneurial and try and make them fall in love with adventure and life, and not letting them have a phone till they're like 16. But good luck with that.
Yeah, it's really hard, especially if they're around lots of kids that have got phones, and that's like the cool thing.
I know, because then they get left out and bullied. That's the problem.
Anything that's weird is always like an unusual one for kids, but by the time your kids are that age, it's going to be different in terms of a lot more people are kind of waking up to the problems.
I'm hoping that there'll be certain towns or villages or schools where all the parents are in this treaty together and they don't let their kids have a phone or until they're 16. That would solve the problem, wouldn't it?
Probably be like oversubscribed to get into that school. Best like marketing tactic ever for any school, I think.
I can see that happening. There'd be a lot of oddballs.
That's interesting though. So you generally just never use your phone a lot, or?
I bit the bullet recently and got a smartphone, an iPhone 6, but up until like 6 months ago, I just had like a really basic Nokia, like 3310 equivalent. It's like 15 quid. I got it around Christmas time. I was not against smartphones as such, but I personally knew that I would spend way too much time on it, on Facebook, scrolling through pointlessly, in group chats, watching YouTube, which I am now. So I was just like, do you know what? If I don't miss it now, why get addicted to it? And I'm happy with my crappy phone. Sound like my nan. I can ring people and I can text people. That's all I need to do. But it's true.
You do sound like your nan, to be fair.
It just used to annoy me when I went to the pub and I hadn't seen my mates in like 2 weeks and I had a story to tell them, and maybe I'm not a very good storyteller, but every now and then they'd be like scrolling on their phone. I'd be like, fuck's sake, like we're here to tell stories to each other and talk and have a laugh. I didn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I recently did a TEDx about the whole like issue with smartphones, and they're just sort of grabbing your attention. And as soon as you don't know what to do, it's like you have this thing in your pocket that's just like an infinite list of things to do that can distract you and amuse your mind. And so you never actually spend any time being bored or like being creative or like thinking for yourself. As soon as your brain's like, oh, I've got nothing to do, I can like think of things. It's like, okay, the first thing I'll do is my smartphone before I do anything else. And then you're lost in Facebook, or you're talking to people, or you're listening to podcasts and listening to other people's opinions and thoughts rather than your own.
It's a good point. You can just go on YouTube and bam, YouTube's algorithm is recommending you things like what will happen if you throw a bowling ball off a 40-meter platform onto a trampoline. And of course, you're going to watch it.
When you're like doing something kind of difficult, you're not sure what's going to come up next. And your brain goes, oh, I could use my phone. And you'll instantly get like a bit of dopamine because if you do something and you get like a task list, or in the same way that like if I'm stuck at home, if I'm not sure what to do, like I'll often just go to the fridge to eat something, and like I'll eat something and like my brain will go, hey, you ate something, that's great. And then give me like a reward. And like half an hour later, it'll be like, oh, I can reward you again if you go to the fridge. And I'll just keep on going to the fridge all day. Whereas if I'm somewhere else where there's no fridge with food in it, I don't do it. The same with like you constantly have a phone on you, they'll just keep on sort of rewarding you, and you know that, and doing these other things that are hard.
It's very true, mate. If you're doing that from the age of, I don't know, 9, your teenage years are so crucial for your development. I mean, we had MSN, but I'm so happy that I spent my teen years out there trying to pull girls and trying to make people laugh, and that it wasn't on a screen.
Do you feel like social media is sort of the worst parts of being a teenager, like concentrated, or like kind of the validation and seeking of attention and stuff? It's all about like you trying to like be cool and just show off about your life. It's got none of the good parts of just sharing experiences with people, actually doing stuff together, and like being in real time, and actually having a conversation. You don't actually make friends on social media ever. You just show off to the ones that you have. Oh, it gets so annoying.
Yeah, man, absolutely. When I look at who my closest friends are in the world, like the guys who know all my secrets and I can just be my unadulterated self in front of, I made those bonds when I was 13, 14, 15, 16. You know everyone's bad side and you love them anyway. So if you don't have that, then you'll have no friends, basically.
A great future for anyone of the younger people. But it's weird how like quickly, I mean, you've only just got smartphones, it's not the same, but I mean, the last 10 years of my life, I've had a smartphone. But before university, like I went around America and drove around it with like a compass. And like now it's sort of just seems weird to not even have like a sat nav or a phone that will just tell you where to go and do everything. And just how you lose that skill so quickly that you even realize. But if I'd grown up with those things, like I'd never even realized that I could even get somewhere without having a phone on me. Kind of, it's literally like an extension of yourself. Like you don't feel complete without a phone. I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but like it's a common recognized fact that like if a human sort of forgets their phone and like is on the tube, like going to work or something, they'll literally get off the tube and go back and get it because they just don't feel right. Like they can't do their day without their phone.
As you say, like maps and all those tools, but also they feel like they're connected to all the people they know through like social media and like, oh God, I'm missing out on things. And it is a shame because I think humans, we derive a lot of satisfaction and we feel kind of at one with ourselves when we complete challenges and things that are hard to work out. And if we've got this thing to think for us, you're not going to be proud of yourself really because you haven't worked anything out.
What are the kind of other hard, meaningful things that you might want to do with your life then? Because like the YouTube channel is pretty cool. Is that like your big focus to just grow that now? Because that's kind of what you're working full time on. But is there any other like big goals of Tom that we haven't heard of?
For now, my main goal is definitely keep releasing adventures, GeoGuessr as well, but keep releasing good content on my channel because it might not last forever. In 5 years' time, I'll probably be, yesterday's news. So yeah, just keep doing what I love doing. Keep doing these adventures that I love. I'm doing them because I love them first and foremost. So that's my focus at the moment. If I got an offer to be a TV presenter for like Countryfile, I'd say no because it would stress me out and I wouldn't want to do it. I want to do what I want to do. I know it sounds selfish, but I'm better for it. And the fans of what I do are better for it. But music is another big passion of mine and I'm recording an album and I'm also going to release the soundtrack from the Mission Across Wales as well. That 16-bit game theme kind of music. I love music and that was always my first passion, but it's so hard. But who knows, maybe my album will gain traction and I can make a name for myself in that field as well.
That would be epic. Anyway, back to life things. You seem to be interested in quite similar stuff. Have you thought of doing more like businessy side things, or like trying to, like, you're talking about schools, sort of making those kind of things happen in the longer run, or being a voice for this sort of stuff as you're on your channel, besides just doing adventures, actually talking about why people should be having more adventures and maybe how they could be like getting away from the Instagram side of just showing off about stuff and being more present?
Yeah. Well, I've got this idea that I'm going to release a series of videos, mainly because I can't really film much at the moment. One of them was going to be, this is why you should put yourself out your comfort zone. This is why you should go on adventures. Because, man, if you can help people get out of a hole, and maybe people who are a bit lost in life, kind of down and out, no direction, why not help them? I think that'd be a great thing to do, because I've been there. I was in a bit of a rut, really, when I was in my early 20s, just bumming around, smoking weed and just doing nothing with my days. So, I'd like to help people, definitely. Sort of see the light, if you like, put themselves out their comfort zone, because I do believe that's the best quick-fire way for you to just feel alive again and feel proud of yourself and feel like, oh, yeah, I do belong on this earth, and I can do worthwhile things. Just go on a big, massive adventure and camp out in the rain and be shivering and be like, oh God, this is awful. This is desperate. And then get through it. And then the next day when the sun comes out, you just feel amazing. But I guess it's not for everyone.
Yeah, it's a hard one, and things that work for us don't always work for everyone, I've kind of realized, and you have to go to people on their own terms as such. But there's a lot of people that just need a bit more of a push to realize how good it would be if they kind of did take a bit more adventure, because people are often kind of waiting for sort of validation that they can do something, and you kind of need to learn yourself that you can do things, and having the opportunities to do stuff before you think you're ready is where you like learn the most usually.
Yeah, you've got to make it happen for yourself, for sure. But it's good to have guidance.
Okay, we're going to have a quick break for an advert, after which we'll talk about how to expand your comfort zone and how to pick yourself up, dust yourself off after something goes wrong, which it inevitably always does. Creating a stream of income that I can work on independently from where I want in my own time has been a game changer for my life. But where do you start in the world of digital side hustles? I'll tell you where. Hostinger. Oh my, does Hostinger have everything you need to thrive online and launch a website in minutes. You don't need any technical or design skills to make something that looks beautiful and works flawlessly. I'm starting a new project now, building digital products with my girlfriend, and it's been so easy to use. Whether you want to make an affiliate blog, sell coaching, or build a direct-to-consumer store for physical products, it's got everything, and for only $2.99 a month. And that comes with a free domain name. It's a silly good offer. Now, with Hostinger, you can launch a WordPress website with one click, or use Hostinger's own drag and drop website builder. Got over 150 beautiful, fully customizable designs for e-commerce, blogs, portfolios, landing pages, and you can create a free logo using their AI, which is super good and made a better logo than I could make myself by far. So currently you can get 78% off their website, hosting plans, and 2 months free, which means you get everything for $2.99 a month. There's never been a better time to start a side hustle. And if you go to hostinger.com/growth, GRW, oh God, I can't spell growth, 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 then you'll get everything you need to create your own website for less than $3 a month. And if you use the promo code GROWTH, you'll get an extra 10% off. That's hostinger.com/growth. Promo code GROWTH. I can't spell it, but if you can, then you'll get your 10% off. Promo code in the description. What would go into this video that would push someone out of their comfort zone and get them to do something?
I guess it would just be me talking and then showing clips of moments where I was very much out of my comfort zone and I was scared shitless. But then I got through the other side and I was like, get in, I'm still alive. Never felt more alive. It would just be a kind of more of a tutorial, me just speaking from home really and just trying to reach out to people.
But it's good to just have that need to adventure, and sort of that's one of the things I think you learn if you ever be traveling by yourself. You just start pushing yourself to do stupid shit anyway. Then if you had that, but when I was by myself, I just see a random hill and be like, oh, I just feel like I have to walk up that, or see some people and just entertain yourself by just doing something stupid. And trying to think of examples, but yeah, or seeing a girl and be like, actually, No one's going to like tell me to go and approach them. I just have to go and do this. Otherwise I would be sit here and be bored.
Definitely, man. Yeah, traveling alone scared me at first. I was kind of terrified me, but it was great. I know it's that old cliche, but you do learn who you are and you end up like talking to yourself and just like having a chat with yourself, which is a good place to be in that.
But I think it's kind of a good thing. Like I actually started doing that more regularly, like when I was talking about the TEDx speech and the fact that we're just on our phones the whole time. And like, if you're listening to podcasts, like people, you like literally every moment you're listening to someone else's thoughts and you're never like thinking your own thoughts and stuff. Cause I did listen to a lot of podcasts and so I felt like that was a bit of a habit. So whenever a podcast finishes or if I hear something really good, I would stop my podcast and I would like then talk about what I just learned with myself and ask myself, so what does this mean? How can you like change yourself or do something with this information? Like, what are your actions? And I'd like have that conversation for 5 minutes, like out loud, because just information going into your brain in one way, you kind of delude yourself into thinking that you've got it. You hear it. Oh yeah, this is great. I'll remember that. I got the idea. And like, you forget it, like by the time you finish the podcast and it's sort of gone. And in the same way that like, if you sort of explain something to someone and you ask them if they understand it, they'll say yes. But if you ask them to explain what you just told them, they maybe haven't got it perfectly. And like, it takes them a while to actually sort of work out what it was. Like they learn a lot more by trying to express it in their own words. And so like by putting that information that sort of went into your head, but it's going to get lost into your own structure of like how you can put it into words, that like, you remember so much more by doing that. So yeah, I kind of forced myself to start doing that. And so like my top tip was to talk to yourself more. And it's like, it sounds crazy, but actually it's sort of much better than not, and like compared to all the idiots who are just constantly just listening to other people's thoughts the whole time.
It's a shame actually that there is a stigma attached to talking to yourself, because obviously it is probably a symptom of being stark raving mad, but it's also a symptom of being very much not. It's a great thing to be able to do, but it's a shame that like no one does it really out of fear of looking mad.
Sort of insight meditation and these kind of things, it is like having a conversation with yourself and actually sort of looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking about who you are and these kind of things. And that's like super healthy.
And when you're out camping, if anyone did want to go on an adventure and it was the first time they'd camped on their own, it is scary and it is lonely and it is like kind of depressing. But that's the best thing you can do, is just kind of like talk to yourself and be like, oh, great, the fire's gone out. Da, 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 da. That's how you get through it, just by kind of keeping yourself occupied.
100%. Nice. We spoke about adventure a lot and pushing your boundaries. Or anything that if you were to impart wisdom upon people, this would be the one thing they should know.
It's always important to be conscious. It's hard to ignore the struggle that a lot of people go through today with mental health. Whilst answering your question, it's hard to kind of ignore that, because I've struggled with that in the past. There's no bigger struggle than that, depression and things like that. So there is always a way out of those dark holes you can find yourself in life. You may not know it at the time, but there's a reason that you're there. There's a reason that you're in that hole. I think with a large number of like young men lacking in direction and lacking in kind of knowing who they are, and with the right people around you and love from other people, and with the right decisions that you can make and the right attitude, you can claw yourself out of it and do great things and be happy. That's quite deep, but I do believe that, because I have been there and so far so good. I'm all right these days. If I can teach other people that that's possible, then that's what I'll do. I think that's a very valuable thing.
That's really deep and useful thing to be learning. So it's a really hard one when it feels like there is no way out. It seems very like all encompassing and you can't imagine what it is. But I guess that's kind of one of the things that you do sort of learn from travel, to be back to our earlier conversations of sometimes things just go completely wrong and you have no idea how it's going to work out. But after you kind of have these moments where you're like, I think we're going to die or something's going to go so wrong, and then it does work out, you do get out of the situation, you kind of end up getting home and like everything's fine. You start to kind of get a bit more faith of when everything is shit, that it will not be shit again. You kind of understand that things are just temporary and you kind of almost enjoy the moment for what it is, of like, wow, this time which I'll tell as a story of how things are so epically shit. And you kind of almost enjoy the fact that things are so shit. And it's kind of cool.
You can ride it out. Consciousness is really important. I mean, I'm no bloody Russell Brand kind of spiritual guru yet. The beard's got a few inches to grow yet. But I've definitely learned over the years, very recently really, that being conscious is your ticket out of some really sticky holes in life. I think part of the reason I was depressed when I was kind of sort of 18, 19 was like, I just assumed that, oh, this is me, this is who I am, and like I'm destined for this. And then when you think like that, you just spiral down and down, and those negative thoughts just continue. But if you're conscious of why you might be feeling that way, and that your emotions are linked to your actions and your feelings and all that, and your thoughts, then that's your ticket out. And being conscious, and well, it comes with experience, I guess, in life.
Yeah, I didn't realize, because you sort of alluded to sort of having a hard time earlier. You didn't realize it would have been quite so bad. Like I should have known, really.
I haven't talked about it with my parents. And, I don't like talking about it because I don't like making a big deal out of it, really, and never have done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never been one for like the attention and these kind of things. And so it doesn't help. It seems to make things worse.
Because you've got to offload it to someone.
But then that's sort of one of the problems of perhaps like as a guy, you kind of feel like you should be like perfect and that you shouldn't have these problems. You shouldn't be talking about your feelings and these kind of things. But it's often very useful. You need to learn how to do that better. Besides having the faith that things would get better, how did you actually get out of your problems?
I think it happened over a long period. I think I had it quite bad, and then I just sort of like dusted myself off one day and got a job. That was the first job I got, working behind a bar at the Toby Carvery. And I think it's funny because I wasn't even conscious at the time that I was doing it, but I must have made a conscious decision to go in there and be really nice to everyone and just make the best impression possible. Just be really chatty and really exuberant, really nice, because I just figured that's going to put me in good stead. And that's the positive way to approach life. And maybe that will come back to me. Maybe I'll get that back and I'll be happy again. But it still went on. I still struggled with it for a few years. Then one day I just realized, I think I was about 23, 24. I realized that it was just this pattern in my head, and that these negative thoughts, I kind of just captured it there and was like, that's it. It's just come about there. I just noticed it. And I somehow managed to nip them in the bud, and touch wood, I've been able to just nip those negative patterns in the bud. And that was without ever going to a doctor or anything. I decided that was not the way to go. And then from there, just making decisions like not doing drugs. I've got Verity now. May well have slipped back into some kind of hole without her. She's like a real rock in my life. And yeah, I think that helps, having a companion. Definitely as you get older and older.
I think I could do with one of those.
Maybe that's your number one goal, I think, in life.
Yeah, I did go through phases of being like, should probably focus on this more because I'm quite happy in my own company, and you kind of learn to maintain yourself and do interesting things. It's not like at any one point in time it seems like a major issue, but then sort of if you think about your big life, it's like, well, actually, if I could be sharing all of this with someone, that would be so awesome. And it should probably be like my biggest priority. But at any one point in time, it's not like, oh God, I haven't got a girlfriend right now. I need to cry. And like, you just don't notice it.
I guess you shouldn't worry about it too much. You should let it happen. But definitely, I wouldn't want to grow old without a companion, or ultimately without kids. I think that's going to be an important thing that's going to keep me happy. I mean, everyone's different. Some people just don't want kids, for example. But I think it's quite sad these days. A lot of people don't think they want kids. And then they get to like the late 30s, 40s, especially women who have got more of a body clock in that sense. And then they get into their 40s and they're like, oh shit, actually, I'm going to die alone. I'm going to be kind of lonely now for the rest of my life.
This links back into the conversation where we said about like humans are crap at making commitments these days. And we just sort of not ready to actually ever do the thing. We're always sort of waiting for something that's better or something. And you're like, actually, life is now. Just do the things that it's like important.
Yeah, I think that's very tied in. Because when I first met Verity, I was quite scared of commitment, because that's what I've been used to my whole life, just being free and doing what I want. So it was a scary thought, but like, I think you've just got to dive into it, much like a lot of things that scare you. Dive into it and see what happens. Get up the duff. No, I'm joking.
Well, on that note, boom.
The worst advice.
Yeah. No, that's cool.